Well, you can't beat the time of year. It's light when you're done practicing. It's getting warmer. I see you guys 4 or 5 times a week instead of once. And we're still playing basketball. So I think we had a really good practice yesterday. We brought the team back last night and practiced a little bit to try to get used to the midnight start or whenever we start. Most of you guys will be sleeping, so that'll probably make it easier on me on the writing, but that's the only concern I have. You know, it's a little late night, but I guess it's the same for the other team, so it really doesn't matter. Practice today and tomorrow, and then we leave and get down to Cleveland and play Bryant. And Bryant, been very impressed with the film I watched on them, and watched how they played St. John's early in the year. They're big. Their guards are big. They're 6'6", 6'6", 6'8", 6'8", 6'11". Very experienced, older team, 5th and 6th year guys even, and very well coached. My man Martelli he's done good, man. The people, his sons are both good coaches, and this one, he's got a head job. He's 23 games. They're 14-2 in their league. It is hard to determine different leagues, what you play and who you are, but this is a very fast tempo team. At least 80 points a game 20 times this year, so they can score it. They got a couple guys who can really shoot it. I said about size, but the Penzone kid is as good a shooter. He's averaging over 18. He's shooting over 39 from the 3. And Timberlake was their tournament MVP. They've got a regular season MVP, newcomer MVP. But Timberlake is kind of like Tanji. I mean, he's a little bigger, 6'6", 225. But he handles the ball. He plays kind of point forward. He can post up. He can play on the perimeter. He is a very good player. And then they've got a couple guys, Evans and Withers. Withers is a phenomenal shooter, and Evans is a problem because he's a 6'8", 4-man who really plays like a 2-guard, and he can handle it. He can pass it. He can shoot it, and that's where the mismatch and matchup problems come to light. So, all in all, I think it is a good team. They average almost 13.5 offensive rebounds a game, which is phenomenal, and means they're a pretty tough team, and I think they are. So, other than that, it's just getting more practice time on them and getting more film time to watch them, which we've done a lot of. Questions?
Tom, I think their top 4 scorers are all transfers. Some of them, some higher level guys like St. John's, Memphis. Does that experience change at all? Being their
well, when they're 4th, 5th, and 6th year guys, it does. They've played Memphis, Miami, St. John's. Can't remember all the places, and they're experienced, meaning they're older guys. So they've been through a lot. They are definitely stronger because of that. And I don't know. I don't know what it means, but it means that they've won a lot of games this year, and they've been very well coached, and they've played very well. So this is a great opportunity for them, and hopefully our guys are looking at it. It's a great opportunity for us.
Wondering about the bigger guards. You kind of mentioned the size factor there, and you guys have had some games against maybe some of the, I'm thinking like maybe UCLA or USC. How do you counter that size factor with your guards and use their strengths to their advantage? Well,
they don't have as much depth in that area, so we hopefully can wear them down a little bit. They like to run, and we like to run, and hopefully that gets you in the open court a little bit more. It's hard to say, who they're playing a lot of the time. So that's the hardest thing to judge on film, that you don't get to see in person. But How do we exploit it? We exploit it by being very solid defensively, and hopefully getting more and more movement offensively, and make them guard too.
Do you think Jeremy Fears is playing his best basketball right now, and do you just kind of reflect on the season he's had?
I think he's playing his best basketball by far, and both on the court and both with the ball and with his voice and with his intelligence. I've seen the last 4 or 5 games. I think he's made some incredible adjustments. He's looking to be a point guard that really gets people involved. He really has a great understanding of the game. And I think part of it is, I said all year, he come off the injury he had and be out for 7-8 months. It doesn't come back immediately. And even though he kept telling me that he's a 95%, and I kept saying, well, you still can't do some things just physically that I've seen you do in the past, even with quickness. I'm starting to see more and more and more of that. So, he's doing what a freshman normally does, and he's a freshman, sophomore, but playing-wise, he was out all that time. So he's gotten better as the year's gone on, and I think with, him, Jace, Jaden, and of course Trey, they're really playing better together too, and that's been a plus for us.
Tom, I'm sure he wasn't the only coach that you called after the championships, but Philip Martelli talked about your call with him and kind of the banter with his dad as well about cheering against his son on the podcast and all that. But it's not an anomaly. You've done that with so many coaches in your career, and I'm curious where that comes from, that stewardship, I guess, of the coaching fraternity.
Judd, Gene, Katie and Heathcote, I looked at what they did, and even Bob and Clem, and the guys that mentored me. When I was asked to be on the board, the Coaches Association board, I called Judd. I said, "Man, they just asked me to be on the board," and he right away said, "What's the problem?" And I said, "Well, there's no problem. I just want to ask your, I'm a young coach. I'm, just trying to learn the ropes. I don't know if I can help other people." And he said, "That's an honor. It's a privilege, and you better damn do it." And on the board then it was a who's who of college basketball coaches. Then it's dropped off over the years. But I felt like guardian of the game is part of the reasons I stayed on it. And I feel for the young coaches getting into it right now. I think it's a lot more difficult to get into than it was back when I did. And so any help I can give them, I just enjoy meeting guys. I enjoy football guys. I enjoy basketball guys. I enjoy the problems. I enjoy the success. I still learn from every one of them. When I talk to a younger guy, it reminds me I got to make sure I do some things that way. When I talk to a football guy, it makes me realize, different sport, same kind of problems you have. You're still trying to get the most out of every player you got. It doesn't matter what sport it is. So I've done it. I've enjoyed it, and I don't know if I've helped anybody, but some people have helped me.
Tom.
Danny, what the hell are you doing here?
Yes, just excited to see you. Just came up to see you.
I knew it. Like old times. Go ahead.
If you think back to the beginning of the season, was there an aspect of this team, this group, that you maybe had a lot of concern about that in turn they greatly exceeded that fear, and there was no real reason to worry?
Yeah, I thought we could be a good team. I did not know things like how would Jeremy come off the injury? How would Jace come as a freshman? How would, guys accept new roles? We knew Coop had to be better, and we had good feeling that Jackson would be, keep hoping that, like Cohen Carr. Where is he going to take his game? So there were a lot of question marks. Some of them were answered over in Maui even, when we played over there and lost to Memphis and then rebounded right back and beat Carolina. And I just felt like the team was, was pretty together and pretty connected ever since the summer. And I thought we did a good job as a staff doing a lot of different things to help connect them. And as I talk to coaches now, or coaches call me about my team, I just talked to Kelvin Sampson the other day, and, the first thing he said was, I love the way your team's connected. Well, how in the hell do you see that on TV? It must be better than even I think, And then as we got into the numbers, we knew sooner or later it would start separating itself, but it became a strength of ours. I think it's helped us with staying fresh. I think it's helped us with injuries. I think it's helped us with a lot of things. And yet it started to separate itself a little bit, which it should. And so I'd say early on, over in Maui, and then maybe those first couple Big Ten games that we had split and lost other years, and we won those, and confidence started coming our way, along with a togetherness. Like, I'm not saying it hasn't happened recently, but it was stronger and better, and people were playing to win instead of for egos, and that was greatly appreciated, and I think we've had success because of it.
Tom, you talk to your guys who won a title 25 years ago, and they'll say it was the year before the 6-point loss to Duke when they truly believed they were capable of something like that. You've talked about the number of teams you thought had a chance throughout the years. How many teams do you think you've themselves actually believed they could do it? And how do you get a team that hasn't really done anything like that to believe they can?
Yeah, especially this day and age, you're lucky that a lot of other teams, like remember when we played North Carolina and Detroit, I'm not sure the all-star team of the Celtics and Lakers would have beat that team, but 4 of those guys came back to win a championship. Mateen announced, and when we lost that game in Tampa, that we're coming back to win a championship. Those things aren't as prevalent now because of the movement there is in sports, but I'm still the same. I'm still here. Those former players that talk about it, they're still here. And I think that helps, but I'm going to lean on them. I got a couple coming in today and tomorrow to speak to our guys because, you're right. These guys haven't accomplished anything yet, but I think the way we played the last 7, 8, 9 games, when we had a lot on the line and a lot of pressure on us, and a tough part of our schedule, a tough part of the 2-day preps. Everything, we really rallied together, and so I think they're hungry to accomplish something. But the biggest fear I have with all new guys that haven't been through it is there is a difference between games and playing for championships. There's a difference between playing regular season and playing in one-and-done time. We saw it in our Wisconsin game, a couple mistakes, and all of a sudden you're going home. And, did we learn from that? Some of it all isn't about learning, it just happens, but those are the things we try to preach without being negative about it, and show things that happened other years here or other years to other teams. And I'm hoping some of our former players, that'll call or stop by will explain that to them, because it always comes better from one of their peers than it does their coach, it just does. And yet I feel like I think I've grown with this team. I said this, we were in Iowa, and we found out we definitely won the Big Ten championship. And the celebration in our small room, in our film room, was players, coaches, and managers. And I didn't see anybody above anybody. I didn't see anybody below anybody. And I think that helped too. We realized we're all in this together. And so I'm hoping all those little things can help propel us, but you still got to defend, rebound, run, make shots, not get in foul trouble like we did against Wisconsin. So many factors in games that some you can control, and that's what I talk to them about. Let's control what we can control, some you can't control.
If you've had teams Shasha's team that went to the Final Four, did that team believe before it beat Duke that it could? Like, I'm just wondering, if you had great teams that you weren't sure believed.
I think sometimes you have too many teams that when you say believe, in other words, are you too cocky? Are you too comfortable? So I'm always looking for the happy medium, but I'm sure, Denzel's team, I mean, I think they thought, the Gary Harris team, I think we believed we could, and I think to this day, we had a bad half. And that's the things that I bring up now. Probably the team that, one of the teams that surprised, even me was the time I guess that was 15 when we won out in Syracuse, but those guys were hungry to play. They felt like in 14 we could have been there and didn't, and so I don't know. I don't sit there and wonder if they believe. They better believe. We just went through one of the tougher schedules that we've probably ever played in a row, and survived it, and then got beat, making a couple mistakes that I think we could have, should have handled, and if we can use the two, then that's what this week is for. It's to get them to believe. I don't think they go into it. Mateen's case was different. His personality was different. That team was different. Draymond's, when we won, when we went to the finals in 2009, I think there was a hope to get back there in 10, which we got back there, but I don't know. That's a good question. I don't have a good answer for you, so I'm politician in it. I'm beating around the bush. I don't have a good answer, but I think this team feels comfortable that we can be good enough to make a deep run, and yet I think they are smart enough to know that our margin for error is not great, like some of the teams I've had. But most people's margin for error is not as good as you think. I mean, Carolina's that year, that was as good as it gets, There's not a lot of those kind of teams left.
Tom, when you think back to recruiting, Jace, what are a couple things that come to mind? I'm sure that was probably a unique one in some ways for you. And as far as I remember, I don't think it was necessarily a foregone conclusion that just because of his family that he was going to come here.
Oh, no. I mean, the one thing that was the hardest was Jace being his own man, his own player, not going somewhere because he's Jason Richardson's son or Jackie's, son. It was, I think and hope that number one, Jason at least felt comfortable that he knew what he was getting into. Number two, I think, thought of winning a national championship, going to 2 Final Fours. I mean, his son had to be brought up on some of that. But you're right, that was no foregone conclusion in my mind or anybody's mind. And what I like a lot more on having Jace than recruiting Jace is you don't see the integral little parts that make him so special. He's got an unbelievable demeanor about him. Definitely cocky enough to be great and humble enough to be a regular. I mean, my favorite thing with Jace Richardson is to watch every day in practice. He goes by and he says hello to all the managers and he hugs them and does this and does that, and I go, where did that come from? Just different. He's a different kid, and I say that in a very positive way. But I had to learn too. He's not outwardly boisterous. He's not. He's got a calm confidence about him, and he's a very, very efficient kid. I mean, I don't think he does anything that isn't efficient. His passes are efficient. His defense is efficient. His rebounding is efficient. He doesn't waste shots. He doesn't waste a lot of motion. Everything he does is very efficient, and that Cassius had some of those qualities, but Jace even has more of them, and without being boisterous about it. And God, you got to love that about the kid.
Tom, talking about Jace, got me thinking about the guys that have led you on long runs. Do you see some characteristics in this team similar to the teams that went on long runs for you? And if so, what are those characteristics?
Well, I had a couple of teams that went on long runs that had incredible leaders that were here 4 years, and sometimes, like in Jaden, he leads by example every day, how he carries himself, what he does in his life, what he does academically, what he does socially, what he does work ethic-wise, but not as boisterous of a leader. And, I thought Jeremy would be that guy, and I think he would have been that guy, but then the injury happened, and so you still have to spend half the year, finding yourself. That's why I thought your question was very good, that Jeremy is coming into that guy, and he has the voice and the cockiness to be a leader. You have to have some cockiness to be a leader, and you have to have a voice. And when your own game, when you're struggling with your own game or struggling to get back, it's hard to lead others. So I see that part of it getting better. I see those guys learning how to play together, being better. And so is it enough? I don't know. But I like the way our kids respond to our coaches, and I like the way they're responding to each other right now. Then you got to have enough talent to do things too, and we've made no bones about it. It's not maybe the most talented team we had 1 through 8 or 9, but that connectability and that togetherness is maybe as good as 99% of the teams I've had. And what will that do? We're going to find out.
Just a quick follow-up. You love having seniors this time of year, but as times have changed, a freshman can lead the way in a certain degree these days?
They can. They definitely can. And he's kind of come up through the process, like everybody thinks everything was going to be given to him because he was Jason Richardson's son. And it wasn't. I mean, he went through the process, which I'm sure it sometimes made it harder on people. But I think in the long run, he is so poised to do what he can do, and there's no doubt maybe he can be one of those guys. I think Trey and he and Jeremy together, form a good bond on that, as far as one's confident enough, one can lead in a different way, and one of them's a really, really, really good player. So you put all those things together, and maybe it's a little bit more by committee than you'd like. You'd like one voice sometimes. I'm not saying that one voice still couldn't happen, because what has been interesting about Jace is winning has always been really important to him. He's won everywhere he's been. Some other guys haven't won everywhere they've been. He's won everywhere he's been, and I think that makes it where winning is the ultimate goal here.
Tom, that 215 is no lock. How often do you bring that up with this team before this? And without ever looking past Bryant, how much work can you get done thinking about Marquette and New Mexico to win the weekend?
Yeah, I don't mind talking about that, because I'm a white elephant in the room guy. Whenever there's a white elephant in the room, I talk about it. Some people hide behind it. Some people put their head in the sand like an ostrich. I don't. I'll never forget, my favorite one was we were at Nebraska when Miles was a freshman, and our team was decimated by injuries, and I could tell that week of practice that this was a big game. There's only a couple left. We had to win. So a pregame meal. I shut the door. I said, "Everybody done?" "Yeah." And I said, "All right, there's a big white elephant in the room, and he's ready to pounce on all of you. So we're going to sit here and talk for 15 minutes about you owe me nothing. Don't worry about, you've given me everything you can give me. We've been hurt by some injuries and that. Don't feel the pressure of the former players. They understand where we're at. And I just went through it and talked up front about it. And we went out and beat the hell out of them. And I think that taught me that you better deal with issues, not hide behind them. I've tried to do that most of my career here. So do I bring up the 2:15 game? Hell yes. First night, first thing I talked about. I said, the advantage you have with your coach, he's done it all. He's gone to a Final Four as a 7 seed, which isn't normal, and he's been beaten in a 15-2 game. So I've lost in the first weekend as a 1 seed, and I learned from it, and I try to tell him that. So you're going to have to trust me in what I'm telling you, because you aren't going to be able to go through it. And if you do go through it, it's because you hung up your shoes. We're done. And I think that's been pretty good. I think our team understands it. I mean, I don't sit there and worry about it every day. I know what can happen. In that game against Middle Tennessee, in that game, we were the best defense team in the country. They shot 56, 53 or something from the 3. We shot in the 50s and lost. And that wouldn't happen to Michigan State 1 out of 100 times, but it did. And give them credit. They beat us. And so I tell them, nothing's given, everything's earned, and we've got to overcome things like a hot shooting team. You still got to find a way to win. A bad officiated game. You still got to find a way to win. Somebody in foul trouble. Somebody could get injured. So I try to talk about all that the very first night, and that way, do I harp on it every day? It depends. If we have a bad spot in practice, I say, okay, you want to be the next team? I said, I got a good friend of mine that was part of the 116 loss. I said, and a year or two later, he won the national championship. So hopefully, I'm sure he learned. Hopefully I've learned. Hopefully I can get it across to you, because that's the gift I can give you.
What about being able to look ahead to the second game of the weekend to win it without slacking off?
Yeah, well, Mike Krzyzewski taught me a good lesson. After the first couple years, I was in the NCAA tournament, and it was called Win the Weekend. And I heard him say it somewhere, and I said, wow, and then it started making sense. When you're a young coach and you're trying to keep your job, which everybody is today, by the way. Everybody's trying to keep their job, but except me. They don't want me. It's time, But I'm comfortable that what Mike said was, your program gets to a certain point. Winning a game does not help you keep your job. It does not. You want to win the weekend because that helps you advance to the ultimate goal. Now, everybody knows you got to win the first game to win the weekend, but you don't get much time to prepare for the second game. And unlike the Big Ten tournament, when you only get 1 day, but you've already played those teams, and you have a better idea on those teams, this is different. So, we'll prepare yesterday and today a little bit for Marquette, a little bit for New Mexico, on things they do that we can use here that maybe all the teams do. And once again, I tell my players, hey, listen, if we throw in a press or a zone and maybe Bryant doesn't, that's where you are. You picked it, and that's what we do here. So we're not looking ahead. I've already been beaten by a 2:15. We are doing what we need to do at Michigan State to accomplish what we want to accomplish at Michigan State. So Mike gets I don't know, maybe I did too much of that in the 2:15 game a few years ago, so he either gets some credit or blame, but that's the way we do it here. We will prepare somewhat for all 3 games the first 2 days, and not in personnel or anything, just in maybe zones, presses, what they could do. If they're a really good rebounding team, we might put a little more emphasis on that. If whatever it is, good fast break team, we might do a few extra drills on transition defense, because that's what New Mexico does or something. But don't read into it. Don't think I'm overlooking anybody. And if you do, then you don't know what I've done for 25 years.
Just kind of a follow on a couple different areas here. One, the togetherness aspect. There was a point in Iowa where Jace and Cohen were kind of in the middle of one play, just kind of not necessarily butting heads, but communicating what went wrong in demonstrative fashion. But how much does that togetherness help that? And the second part of it kind of also goes with that. Your role is both an educator, just everything that you've talked about today, is both the educator of the athletes, but also still being a student of the game yourself. Just how you kind of balance that at this time of year.
Well, I'm always a student of the game. I'm a student of sports. That's why I spent hours after the loss to Wisconsin talking to my buddy Mariucci. Just, what is it like, what did you go through? What is it like in pro ball? I was learning, but as far as a squabble, do you like your boss every day? In fact, you like your wife every day.
Not a squabble. I meant just that they're able to, because they're together,
they're
able to communicate that way and not.
Yeah, because those two are tighter than thieves. But I agree with you that there should be a time when somebody should be able to post somebody else up. I was posted up in a huddle by Trey Holloman one time, and he had a good point at what he brought up, and I used that. And I won't get into it because that was a huddle. That was the sanctuary of where we are. But everybody goes through those times, and if you respect the people you're playing with, you love the people you're playing with, you should be able to argue or communicate, or everybody takes it different. If people see two people arguing, everybody thinks they hate each other. My God, Draymond and I would have never made it through a day. It's just the way it is. But if people are passionate about what they want to accomplish and they're trying to hold everybody accountable, that stuff happens. And I think that the connectiveness of our team has helped that. I think, you see it all the time in football or in basketball, it's just the way it is. People have to hold people accountable, and if one thought somebody else was doing something wrong, he should feel comfortable enough to tell them. Sometimes, back to the white elephant in the room, they don't want to deal with the white elephant in the room. And I don't think successful teams handle it that way.
Coach, it's obviously a team game, and your motto is strength in numbers, but every year you see hidden gems, individually speaking, in this tournament. And with your team being full of, under the radar guys, is that something you think about or maybe excites you that any one of them can go off in this thing?
I do think any one of them go off, and I think more of them are playing better in these last 8 games, and that's exciting for me. And I said it early, sometimes maybe I don't know exactly who I'm going to, or people don't think I know who I'm going to, but I know the other coach doesn't, because of the way our team has been kind of put together, and so because of that,